Hello, in today's lesson, we're going to be focused on this learning target. I can plan and organize my writing using a variety of text structures. So today we're really going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to categorize our notes from yesterday into sections using boxes and bullets, and I'm going to show you how to do that on the right side of my screen. My notes are on the left side of my screen from my articles 1, 2, and 3. You may have 4 articles that you have conducted some research on, and you may have some notes for those. So if you'll have your notes out in front of you as you're watching this video, that would be helpful. Plus your boxes and bullets planning guide through Google Classroom. So what you'll be doing is first categorizing into sections our notes. And then after that, we're going to decide which text structures best fit in each of the sections of our piece of writing. Now, there's no limit as to how many sections you could have in a nonfiction informational piece of writing. But just as a guideline, we're going to look at having 4 to 5 sections. And so I have this divided out into 5 sections, and you'll see that, of course, your first section is going to be your introduction in some way. We're going to talk about what to include there. And then the last section will be your closing. But we'll look specifically in a few minutes to see how our research fits each of these sections. So my topic is how the impacts of technology use affects teens in certain ways. So that's what all of my research was about when I was conducting my research. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves this question when we're thinking about our notes and thinking about how to place information, these facts, into our boxes and bullets. So the first thing I want to ask myself is, what information inside of my notes best fits together? And the easiest way to do that is I use the CCC method, which means color coding to categorize. Okay, that's not alliteration there. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be color coding. If you handwrote your notes, you can color code using highlighters, or you can underline certain facts in a certain color of colored pencil. You could put stars next to things that match, and then hearts next to things that match. Whatever method works for you. But I like doing mine on my computer, so I'm going to show you how to color code to categorize. So I'm going to look for information in each of my articles that are very similar to each other and that fit together, kind of like puzzle pieces fit together. So I'm going to go through, and for the first bit of information that I see right here, the first set of information that I see is children overuse tech. So that's going to be my first color. I'm going to color that. I'm going to go ahead and color that pink. I'll be going back and forth up here in my bar. Okay, so that's my first piece of information. So anything that talks about children overusing technology or how much time children use on technology, I'm going to color code that pink. So I'm going to do that now. Let's see, research states children use it for a great amount of time. So that would be pink. That goes together with children overusing tech. Parents should limit screen time. It's all about children overusing technology. So that would be pink. Okay, now it's talking about too much tech and the effects. What does that equal? Let's see, being overweight, screens interfere with sleep. Okay, so this is going to be a whole new category. Okay, so these are all the negative effects of technology on teens and children. So anything that's negative, I think of the color red right away. So anything that's a negative impact on teens' health or the way that teens are or children are, I'm going to color code those items red. So I'm already in a system of pink for some items and then red for the others. Let's see, screens. So sleeping is an impact of being overweight, becoming bully type behaviors, violence. So all of these things here, relationships with family, your schooling, all negative impacts. Okay, so let's continue going. Okay, I'm already to my second article, 5 ways social media affects teens' mental health. So let's look. Remember, pink goes with anything that's talking about overusing technology, and then red are the negative impacts of technology on their health. So the next thing I'm going to look at, let's see, 1 out of 4 teens heavily use social media. So if they're using it a lot, that goes with my pink category. Okay, brain studies show that the number of likes they see stimulates parts of the brain. So this is a whole new category. This is about the research that maybe students have, the research of their brain and how it affects their brain cells. So I'm going to do this a totally different color. Let's use a burgundy, a deep color. That's not much different from the other color. Let's use a Franklin County green. Okay. So anything about the brain study, let's see. Risks of mental health increases as teens have difficulty self-regulating. This looks more like, now we're talking about mental health. That's a whole different category itself. Looking specifically, it's negative, so I could put that in red, but it's specifically talking about certain health concerns. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this red, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to separate these categories. This is a lot of information of negativity. Wonder if I can separate the negatives into two different categories there. So we're going to come over here to our sections, and we're going to look to see what information best fits in each of our categories. And then secondly, what can we call those sections? So I'm going to start showing you how I'm going to put the information. Anything pink can go together. But remember, in an introduction, you're going to have mixed information. So I think it's a good thing to start out with a little bit of the pink information and a little bit of the red, because there was a lot of negativity when it comes to the impacts of technology on children and teens. And I'm going to insert, I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste this information over here. Okay, so anything pink I can put over here. Here's some more pink, some red. I'll have to do some of that in just a minute. So anything pink or red, we can put in a little bit in this section. Now, I probably wouldn't want to put all of my pink and all of my red and all of my purple and all of my orange. I have to be selective and think of what would go into a good beginning paragraph. Okay, so this kind of gives you an idea of which color could possibly go in this section. I'm going to put a little bit of red just so I don't forget to talk about those important parts about mental health in my introduction. I'm going to make this a little smaller so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay? All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think of what should I name this section. If it's a mixture of telling people that children misuse and overuse, even teenagers, use too much technology and it can have negative impacts on them, I then have to think of a way I can communicate this in a title for my first section. This would be a subtitle, is what we call these. The title of your paper will be one thing, but right now these are the titles of your sections. When you look inside a nonfiction book, you see those little headings, those subheadings within your book, and that's what these sections are. So I'm going to call this first section a digital dilemma, because I think it's a problem. Dilemma is a problem, and I kind of like the alliteration there, digital dilemma. So, and I think that grabs the attention of people right off, saying that, hey, there's a problem, and digital technology is the problem. And at the beginning, I talk about that problem of children overusing technology and what it can do. Now, we're going to move to our second section. And I really think the second section, the biggest thing that I noticed within all of my research was the risks, the red. Okay, so the thing that really stood out to me is mental health. We could break that into two sections. We could have one section here, section 2, be about the mental health, but I don't want to call it mental health. I want to find a catchier title, subtitle for that. And then I'm thinking this one here could be our social health, okay? But let's think about what we could name these, okay? So for the first one, maybe I could ask a question in my title, possibly. Maybe I could say something like, is your health worth it? And if I just leave it like that, is your health worth it? They're going to be like, worth what? And so maybe that will pull the reader in and make them want to read a little bit more. Okay. So anything in this category would be anything that is what color? Anything to do with our mental health. I colored any of those things. What color? Orange. So I'm going to insert a few facts that were orange. Okay. And that's us thinking about that text structure. Think about that video we watched earlier, and there were 5 different text structures that they talked about. Okay. So let's think about that. So if you'll look at your sheet, you have a sheet that also has the 5 different, if you'll look on your actual Google Classroom, you have 5 different types of text structures. And don't forget, we can also use narrative nonfiction. And narrative nonfiction is real facts that tell information like a story, like our Malala book. It was told in a story format, but it was factual information about a person and an experience. So we could also use that. And I really think that's a great strategy for an introduction. So what I'm thinking for my introduction, I might use a little bit of narrative nonfiction, possibly, to maybe pull the reader in. And then a little bit of description writing, which is another of our text structures. Description writing. So possibly 2 different text structures merged together. Okay. So that's how I plan to begin my writing. What about this next section? Let's look at this information here. It's given a lot of facts about depression, anxiety, sleep loss, several different options here. So I'm thinking, all of these things may have a cause and effect relationship. Okay, so maybe technology is causing an effect of depression, anxiety, sleep loss. So I consider a cause and effect structure would go well in this section, just to show the relationship between what technology can do and the harmful effects that it has on children. Okay, so that leaves 3 more sections. So section 3, which structure would work best for social instability? I'm not crazy about that title, so I may reword that later. Let me think. Just as these things were negative, these things have negative impacts. So I'm thinking I could use another cause and effect relationship here. Relationship, okay? And so let's see, not all bad. Okay, so these are things that are really, really good. So could I, in this section, compare some good information with some bad information when it comes to technology use? I possibly could. That means I'd have to add a little negative information in there. But I could do like a compare, contrast. I could probably even do some type of problem and solution, because I did have a solution to the problem in my very last piece of information. So I could do a mixture of both possibly. And then my last one, I definitely may end with some narrative nonfiction again and some description. Okay, maybe some narrative nonfiction and description.